If your website doesn't have these 6 essentials, you might not just be leaving money on the table. Your website could actually be costing you. Today, I'm going to show you the 6 must-haves that every website needs in order to have clients lining up to either purchase your products or sign up for your services. Are you ready? Let's go. Your website is the first impression that you have with people online. And guess what? If it's not working for you, it's working against you. The first thing that you need to make sure that your website has is a real strong call to action. Now, what is a call to action? It's a fancy way of saying a button that we're asking people to click on. Now, typically, the call to action is taking somebody to something that we're wanting them to do. In other words, we're encouraging somebody to take action. We're calling them to action. So if you don't have a really clear call to action that is getting people closer to the thing that you're wanting them to do, then you might be losing customers or clients. So how do you make a really strong call to action? Well, the first thing is you've got to be clear about what that button is going to be doing. So for instance, you want the button to say something like, buy now or sign up for a call, rather than some cute and fancy, let's do this, or are you ready for awesomeness, or whatever it is that you decide to put in there. The biggest mistake that I see people make with their call to actions is that it's real unclear about what's going to happen next. The interaction that people have with your website is all about developing trust. You're trying to show them that you're the kind of trustworthy person that they would want to do business with. And how do you make sure that they know you're trustworthy? You just communicate clearly so that they know if they click a button, it's not going to take them to some sleazy sales page where all of their information gets gobbled up and then all of a sudden they're filled with spam. The second essential for every website is a real clear user flow. In other words, you want to make sure that your site is easy to navigate. So make sure that when somebody starts going down the path of all the links on your webpage, they don't find themselves in a black hole wondering how to get out of there, right? Like you've got to kind of go through the website yourself and say, does this make sense, right? If we're wanting people to end up at Z, how do they get there? Do they go from A to B to C on down the road? What if they get stuck in this path? Are they able to get themselves out? A lot of times I see real unclear navigation where it's hard to know which way is up. You want to make sure that users always know where they are and always know how to get to where they're going. And for sure, you want to make sure that they always have the ability to click that call to action that we just mentioned. You want to always have that main call to action prominent on every single page. So at any moment, they could decide to engage with you, purchase a product, or sign up for a service. The third must-have essential for every website is thought through accessibility. And this is considering how folks who might have impairments are able to navigate through your website. So how do you make sure you do that? Well, there's a few big things that are pretty easy to take care of. The first would be color contrast. And what that means is that there's enough contrast in the colors from the text to the background that people with visual impairments wouldn't have a super difficult time reading. There's a few great resources to check your color contrast. The first one is the WebAIM resource, which we'll leave a link to in the description. But there's also other great color palette builders like coolers.co, where you can add different colors and then see which ones pass the contrast ratio. Another accessibility issue to consider would be adding alt descriptions to your images. And this isn't stuffing alt descriptions with SEO keywords, right? No, this is describing the image for folks who are using screen readers so that it would read what the image is that they should be able to see. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list of all the accessibility issues that you need to be considerate of. In order for you to really dive deep, we're going to link to some great resources for you to discover more about that. The fourth must-have website essential is compelling visual design. It's been said that something like 85% of all website visitors are basing their judgment on whether they're going to work with you or not all on your visual design. So you've got to have a really compelling visual design on your website. Do you need to be a graphic designer? Do you need to have a degree in some type of visual element? No, that's not necessarily the case, but you do need to think intentionally about the way your website looks. Is the branding cohesive? Are there engaging visuals? Is the layout easy to navigate and walk through? These are all things that you want to be considering in order to create some compelling visual designs on your website. The fifth must-have essential for every website is motivating messaging. Now, I am a designer first, but I am the first to admit that messaging is much more important than the visual aspects of your website. Your messaging will be the biggest aspect of what convinces someone to sign up or to buy from you. So you've got to make sure that you've thought through your messaging, that it's clear and it strikes to the motivations of the people who are visiting your website. So you're not just talking about the whys, right? So you should purchase from me because I've got a 30-day money-back guarantee and I've got 10 years of experience and A, B, C, D, E, F, G. No, you need to get to the core of why they would want to buy from you in the first place. So what's really motivating them to actually sign up? Are they trying to achieve something? Are they trying to get some type of power back in their life? Like maybe get a handle on their schedule or a handle on their finances? Are they relationally motivated? All of the answers to those questions will help you kind of fine tune the messaging that you are putting on your website. Number 6, and the final website essential, are solid SEO practices. Now, before I dive too deep into this, just note, you don't have to be an SEO expert, but you do need to make sure that you've considered some best practices when it comes to SEO. And a few of the big ones are making sure that you have really clear headers and header tags, right? So you've got something called an H1. That H1 needs to be the clearest description of an entire page. And here's the kicker. You need to only have one H1 per page. And then after that, you've got H2s that are kind of subdividing the page and even down to H3s. Now, you're gonna have multiple H2s and multiple H3s, even down to H6 or 7, but you should only have one H1. You also need to make sure that you've thought through some of the keywords that you're targeting for your pages, right? And you don't need to do a crazy amount of keyword research, but you need to be thinking like, what types of things would people be searching for when they would come across my website? And typically you need to be thinking in terms of long tail keywords. So if you're a photographer, you wouldn't just say photographer is the keyword focus that I'm going to be putting into my SEO. No, you would say something like brand photographer in Charlotte, North Carolina, right? Like it would be something that's a little bit longer and a little bit easier to actually start to rank for. Now, there's a lot of really great things to consider when it comes to SEO. And we've got a great article on the Showit website that kind of goes through the full gamut that I'll leave for you in the show notes. Now it's time to put all of these into action. Take a look at your website and ask yourself, are these 6 essentials being implemented on every single page? And if they're not, it's time to start making adjustments. But you don't have to completely overhaul your website. Small changes can make a big difference. Make sure to like this video if you found it helpful, and don't forget to subscribe if you want more content just like this. Hey, do you have questions? Drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to help. We'll see you in the next video.